This is Man to Men, the premier audio journal for men who live faithfully and lead courageously. I'm Jared Musgrove, bringing you an installment in our seasonal series, Collegiate Leaders. These are conversations with college men who live faithfully and lead courageously on major campuses across the country. And today we welcome Caleb Klopfenstein, straight from Purdue University. Caleb, welcome to the show.
Jared, great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man. Well, you are a leader that many of us at Beta Upsilon Chi admire, getting to spend some time just in our different leadership environments, talking with you, getting to see some of your leadership at Purdue. Tell us a little bit about what year are you at Purdue, major, give us all the LinkedIn stats, and then we'll get into some deeper questions.
I study biomedical health sciences, which technically could mean you go into the health field in any sort of professional capacity. For me, that means I'm pre-med.
Yeah.
So my plan is to go into the medical field and be a physician. Specifically, I want to do eye surgery. So that's really my major career ambition. And I'm going into my senior year.
Well done, sir. Well done. Okay. Well, it should be a great year. And you've had that experience of having those 3 years on campus. What is it like being a Christ follower at Purdue University from your standpoint?
Well, it's exciting. It really is. Purdue is a very large university, 50,000 students on campus.
Yep.
It is also the university that has the largest Greek life organization of any in the nation, I believe.
All right.
And that's over 3,000 students that we're talking who are in Greek life. And that presents especially the people in the Christian community and especially the Greek Christian community with a huge opportunity for outreach. And so I believe that it's been really a fantastic testing grounds for adult life, if you will, in terms of making social connections, making professional connections, growing academically and whatnot, but then also, of course, spiritually.
Well, man, what has been some of the challenges in being a Christian, walking with Christ through these years of college? What have you faced?
Well, with a public university, you're always going to expect some sort of rub there where you want to live for Christ. And of course, the culture is not living for Christ generally at large. But something that God has really been teaching me lately is the fact that if we are truly leaning into His will for our lives and trying to mold ourselves into the image of Him, then we are going to be facing a rub. If we're just going with the flow of our culture, then that just means that we're being molded into the shape of our culture. So I would say there are some difficult moments where I'm taught things that I just don't agree with, but such is life, And so that's just fine. You got to understand the difference between what you believe and what you're being taught. So you're learning what you can and should, but not being kind of a blind sheep in a way. Yeah. At the same time, there are so many incredible benefits to going to a big public state university, sports and high quality professors and whatnot. So, it provides a really cool opportunity in that sense. And also just the fact that it's so large means that the Christian community itself is going to be also very large. Yeah. Which means that Bucks, we're not just an island. We have lots of different church and other independent organizations that we partner with in different events and also just grow community through.
Yeah. Well, you went on to one of the questions I had as you were talking. You talked about just some of the joys of being a Christian believer, a Christ follower on a major, secular university campus. So, man, that's a well-rounded beginning and continuation through college. So speaking, man, this is a big one. Speaking just for your generation, right? So you're the guy right now speaking for them. What do you think people misunderstand about being a Christian in your generation?
Well, I would say that it's kind of a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. When people think becoming a Christian or being a Christian, especially in my generation, they think it just means following a set of rules, and it means saying no more than you say yes. When in reality, we as believers and young men listening to this podcast, shout out my Bucks guys, as we all know, living the life after Christ and living the life through Christ is a full life where instead of saying no to so many things and having to live a self-deprecating or punishing life, we're not so much fixated on the don't do this, but we're fixated on the do this. Because when we make efforts to draw near to Christ, He makes efforts to meet us where we're at and draw near to us. And in that way, He's showing His love to us and showing us the life to the full, the hopeful life that we can have when it's truly rooted in Him.
Yeah, that's really good. What do you perceive as misunderstandings about your generation from those who've come before you? What if you could talk to some of our listeners? It's a lot of you guys who are in college, but it's also guys who are married with families, with jobs. Some of them are looking at retirement right now. What would you say to them is a misperception that they may have about your generation that you would want to speak to?
So this is a little bit of a hard one because there's kind of an overgeneralization that is sometimes true. So take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt.
Sure.
It's also, I'm 21 years old, so I'm going to defend for my generation a little bit.
As we have asked you to do.
Right. That's fair. What I would generally say is that older folks kind of tend to look at my generation and assume that we are all entitled and expect great things to come to us without hard work. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of what my personal background is, but I've had to put in a lot of hard work. I know plenty of people at college who have had to put in a lot of hard work and are going to see hopefully some great fruit come from it. I will say, there are people in my generation who do believe that great things are just going to come to them because they are who they are. But at the end of the day, anything that's great that a person wants to achieve in their life, walking in the Lord, has to come with hard work. So.
Yeah. Well, man, tell us some about that background. First up, just starting, when did you come to Christ and what led you to Purdue and where you are now?
In terms of coming to the Lord, really started when I was about 12 years old, I would say. When I was a lot younger, I grew up in a lot of Christian spheres, my family, my church, my school, just great Christian influences on me. And so I was always kind of surrounded with the language of Jesus and language of the way, if you will. But I mean, there's only so much that you can do when you're 7 or so to really internalize your faith and try and grow in the Lord. And so I prayed the prayer when I was younger like that, and it was a great moment, great start to my journey, I would say. But it wasn't until 12, and actually really maybe towards the middle school, that I really started to ask questions and have people pour into me in some ways that made me realize, okay, well, when we say make your faith your own, that means that I'm going to be able to communicate to God, and God is going to communicate to me in special, unique ways.
Yeah.
And so I started just telling the Lord, just praying to him and saying, Lord, here I am. I don't understand. I would just pray that you would fill me up because I can't fill myself up, And so in those moments of just kind of emptying myself in humility, that's kind of when the Spirit speaks. And that's something that every believer kind of who wants to walk in step with the Lord has to realize at some point in their journey is it takes that moment of humility. So, and at the end of the day, that humility is only ever inspired by the Lord. So that's none of my own doing. And so I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
And since then, it's just kind of been a balance of discovering the ways in which I can be an active participant in my faith and the ways in which I am just thoroughly insufficient.
Yeah.
So I've also been kind of rethinking that balance in my time at college, where there have been moments where I'm thinking, well, I just need to ask the Lord to bless me with a thankful spirit and all that. But we can't just kind of pray a prayer like that and then say, well, God, take it from here.
Yeah.
I need to dedicate time in my day to being thankful. I need to start taking out the headphones and appreciating the little things in my life. So just kind of rediscovering that balance lately.
Yeah.
So.
Would you mind sharing one of those moments with us when you had one of those times with the Lord where you feel like he was leading you clearly when you were in college, or when you felt an intense time of growth with him?
I would say coming into Bucks, I expected kind of Christian housing. The Purdue chapter has a house.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the expectation I had. Just, okay, this is a building I will live in and there are other Christians. And little did I realize how much there is when it comes to sharing life and seeing people on the day-to-day who are going to build you up. So there were some moments where I really thought I understood how I was being perceived by others. I really thought I saw a certain direction for my life. And then started going through some harder times, and also had some difficult conversations where people were making me aware that I wasn't coming across to them as I might have seemed. And so those were big growth moments where the Lord just kind of blessed me in those moments with a bit of an introspective spirit, where as initially I may have wanted to just shut them down and be like, no, you're the problem here. In those moments, the Lord just kind of really convicted me and showed me, okay, no, this is a great growth moment for you right now. So so those are moments where he just showed me, A, I can't do life on my own and I need to rely on community. And then 2, that community is going to be the people who call me out, but then also the people who help me grow through those moments. So Lord definitely spoke strong through some Bucks guys.
Wise words, bro. Wise words. How do you feel the Lord's grown you over these last few years as a leader?
Yeah. So one I would say is definitely in patience and in understanding my own limits. Again, kind of, I came into college a bit of a hot shot. I'll admit that. And even this past calendar year of 2024, I've served as the secretary at Purdue. And coming into it, I really had some strong ambitions, I would say, and then ways I thought I would just revamp everything and kind of overpower things that people had done in the past.
You're talking in your Bucks chapter, right? As secretary?
New Bucks, yes.
Yeah.
And there were definitely some moments there where I understood, one, that I can't do everything all at once. I can't make big changes immediately. And that, like I said earlier, the good things take time and hard work. And then also understanding my own limits and realizing, no, there are some incredible systems that are set in place for a very good reason. And these have been here before I was born and will be here when I'm just a picture on the wall in the Bucks house. So this really isn't all about me. It's about how I can serve and make the little impacts so that we can see long-term growth in our chapter. So I would say generally my growth moment has been understanding limitations to myself and also then just growing in patience.
That's humble. That's humble, man. Who are some of the leaders or the men in your life that you most admire and look up to? This is where you get to name names if you want to.
Well, this is exciting because one of the guys is probably going to be someone who hears this podcast. Brady Johnson on the fraternity staff. Shout out to that guy. Man. Absolutely love him. I came into the Purdue Bucks chapter as a freshman, going through some hard times when he was a senior on his way out the door and was already also on Bucks staff as a college senior. There were some really big ways in which he really did not have to be a part of my life, but he decided to step up and really speak into my life in some powerful ways while also leading our chapter. And a lot of what he did was just lead by example. We talk a lot about intentionality and vulnerability, and he did both of those with the college freshmen who, again, like I said, I came in kind of a hot shot. And so he met me with a lot of patience and a lot of wisdom. So
that's great.
Greatly appreciate that guy.
He's a man worth celebrating. I was texting with him probably about an hour before we signed on before. And it just popped in my mind to just tell him, it's like, man, you are one of the best kind of leaders, a thoughtful leader. Love celebrating that man with you. Absolutely. Well, Caleb, just to wrap up here, college is this amazing possible time in your life. So as you are looking at graduating here in about a year or so, and the Lord's leading the way. I always have to frame this question this way. The Lord's leading the way. You're walking in obedience. You're listening to him. Where do you hope you are 5 years from now? Where would you like to be?
5 years from now, I will hope to be done with medical school.
I was figuring that'd be part of it. Yeah.
There are a lot of variables right now. I applied to 40 medical schools. That's just kind of how you have to do it if you're a pre-med student. So I don't know where I'll end up. Could be anywhere in the country. Could be nowhere if I don't get accepted. Then I have to apply a whole nother year. So there are a whole lot of variables. But my hope is that I'll be out of medical school and on a path towards being an eye surgeon.
Amen.
Of course, with all this uncertainty, that provides a really poignant point in my life for really relying on the Lord.
Yeah.
And I mean, this isn't unique to my situation where I want to go to medical school. I mean, any young man who's graduating from college is faced with the uncertainty of job prospects, grad school, relationships, with other college guys, but then also maybe a female. I mean, hey, who's to say? Could be a whole host of different things going on in a person's life, family issues. So all that to say, I'm just one person who's facing some other uncertainties in my life. But I would say in 5 years, that's about where I'd hope to be. All depends on what the Lord actually wants to speak in my life, though.
That's good, man. That's good, man. Yeah. Last question for you. What are some guiding passages or places for you in Scripture that you tend to just go back to over and over? Yeah,
I would say the most important one for me, at least in this life stage, I believe it's Proverbs 27:17, which would be, as iron sharpens iron, so a brother sharpens a brother. There have been a lot of moments, kind of like I already spoke to a little bit, where I've had to be sharpened, I guess I would say. And there have been some growing pains with that. But the Lord has spoken incredibly through some men who have spoken in my life. And then I've also been able to be on the giving end of that and also just helping biblically admonish people and help them grow in their faith. So, I mean, it's not all the hard conversations. A lot of it is celebration and affirmations. So
yeah,
that would kind of be the guiding verse in my life right now.
It's a good word, man. Hey, thank you for sharing some of your leadership wisdom with us today on Man to Man. Appreciate having you on, Caleb.
Thank you so much, Jared. Big fan of the podcast. You guys are doing great work.
All right. Thank you, sir. Man to Man is powered by Beta Upsilon Chi, the nation's largest Christian fraternity, commonly referred to as Bucks. We exist to equip and empower college men to live faithfully and lead courageously. You can find out more about Beta Upsilon Chi by transliterating our Greek letters and adding a .org. That's byx.org. And if you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and consider giving to our work with college men across the country by following the individual partner link in the show notes. We are produced, rather well, I might add, by the good gentlemen of the Good Podcast Company, and producer Bradley's at the helm over there. Until next time, I'm Dr. Jared Musgrove with Man to Men.